for joining today, and good afternoon, everyone. Also, good afternoon to all the attendees who have joined us today. I'll introduce myself first. I'm Amrita. I'm the Senior Marketing and Growth Manager at Vattel Labs. I primarily handle all our marketing activities and partnerships at a scale for our climate tech solutions division. So, coming to today's webinar, as you all know, we are focusing on the topic from prediction to prevention. We would be seeing how AI-powered flood resilience is happening when it comes to urban, areas and cities. Now, on the behalf of Vasa Labs, I'm extending like a warm welcome to all the distinguished speakers who took their time to join us today. We have a very good lineup of speakers today, which includes, people from government agencies, municipal corporations, smart cities, disaster management authorities are also there as attendees today. Some of our customers are also there from Kerala. I do know that. And then academia and all the senior industry leaders who are looking at digital transformation and also organizations, like Deloitte and Jacobs. We have them in our speaker panel today. And coming to urban flooding, as we know, urban flooding today is rapidly emerging as one of the most critical climate risks, which is happening in most of the cities are facing today, be it metro cities, be it tier two cities, everywhere this is happening. And the core reason being, of course, rainfall variability. Then urban expansions are there, drainage infrastructure is kind of aging. Of course, population also comes into play when it looks at these kind of unprecedented, challenges. And this acts as a challenge for administrators and city planners as well. While today's cities, like most of the cities, are focusing on a very traditional responding to floods, but over the years, given technology has advanced today, especially in the last 5 to 6 years, where AI and geospatial tech have taken the core, uh, like a pioneer tech to look at these kind of disaster management assessments. What companies like us, even SDMAs and various big fours, what they are looking at is doing digital transformation, building digital public infrastructures, digital twins, and also real-time analytics, which are helping these cities to, kind of go from a from reactive disaster response to a proactive, risk management. So today's discussion will be focusing on these areas where we will be bringing together, as I was talking about, a unique combination of experts. So today on the line, we have Dr. N.V. Uma Maheshkar. He's a director and professor from NIT Warangal. I'll talk about him later in a detailed way while I'm introducing him. I'll be doing that. Then on the second, we have Dr. Shubha Avinash ma'am. She's from KSDMA. She has been a chief hydrological modeler in KSDMA, and she actively looks at urban flooding and these kind of topics. Then we have Tanvi Rajput ma'am. She's an associate director from Deloitte India. Her focus has been digital transformation and these kind of areas when it comes to working with cities and taking, emerging technologies to, at a scale to various cities. And, she looks at the implementation side of these kind of tech. Then we have Mr. Sandeep Bominioni. He's an engineer manager at Jacobs. From a engineering perspective, a lot of things comes into play when we are looking at large scale, urban areas and how do we manage floods and these kind of aspects. So his topic will be revolving around that. Then we have Dr. C.P. Devata ma'am. She is also a professor from NIT Suratkal. And last but never the least, we have Jai Kumar sir. He was recently also there in one of our webinars. Again, welcome to you, sir. He's from IIT Dharwad, and professor again has a lot of experience when it comes to, urban flood resilient, water resource monitoring, and these kind of areas. So coming to the topic, like over the next few hours, we will be talking about the role of digital public infrastructures when it comes to urban flood resilience. We will be also discussing about state as well as city level perspectives on the preparedness and the governance side of things. And then we would be looking at how AI and geospatial tech and digital twin are transforming these decision making. That we will be taking handling it from Vasa's side. And then we will learn how industries, Fortune 500 companies like Deloitte and Jacobs are working when it comes to building these resilient urban systems along with policymakers. So on the panel, first I would start with Dr. Uma Mahesh sir. He will be our first speaker. For discussing him, he is a distinguished, expert in his work. He has almost 82 plus publications over, given his experience, and he's one of India's leading experts when it comes to hydrology, water resource systems, and climate resilience and urban modeling. So, sir, please let me, you can start with your topic. We would like to know, like, how to use, digital public infrastructure today for urban flood resilience. And I would also like to know, the need for scalable flood intelligence. Over to you, sir. Please continue. Sir, you are on mute. Can you please unmute yourself, please?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction and also for inviting me to be a part of this webinar. And it's a pleasure to share my experience with a lot of experts, other experts present here. In fact, let me share my presentation.
So while sir is sharing his screen, I just wanted to let all the speakers know you will be having 10 minutes for your speaking, and then after that there might be some question answer we can take accordingly. Yeah. So please continue.
Hope my screen is visible.
It is visible, Mahesh. Make it full screen.
Let's just make it. Okay, hope it's full screen now.
Yeah.
Fine. So maybe I think because the topic is interesting, I think the webinar is on prediction to prevention, where we are talking about air-powered urban flood resilience. And in fact, it's really difficult for me to start the topic because I'm the first speaker and I have to introduce the topic of digital public infrastructure for urban flood resilience and need for scalable flood intelligence. So I just try to discuss why we require this DPI for improving the urban flood resilience. So let me start with the basic concepts. Like, so already I think as we discussed, say urban floods have become very important these days because we find a lot of instances of urban floods taking place across different cities in India. And one of the problems with urban floods is, in fact, they occur in very short period of time, and even a small rainfall. I think I understand yesterday there was a heavy rainfall in Hyderabad and 11 minutes rainfall, and then a lot of areas got flooded. There's a kind of situation that we arise with compared to riverine floods. The quantity of rainfall and then the volume of runoff may be less, but still the type of damage it causes and the nuisance causes is more, and mostly because of the concentration of the population. And so today, urban floods are not rare events, but they have become more predictable, and most of the time it's because of the our failure, not because of anything else. So, in fact, if you look at the world across the world, if you list the 20 most vulnerable cities as of 2005, 17 cities are from the developing countries, and we have 3 cities in India which are prone for floods. And all the 3 cities are coastal cities. But I think it's not the question of coastal cities. Okay, they are known, Mumbai, Chennai, Surat, these are cities which are located in the coastal areas, and then they always had been problems of flooding earlier. But if you look at recent events, like for example, I just put some figures from Hyderabad floods, which occurred in October 2020. One of the worst rainfalls, I think very heavy rainfall that occurred within a span of like 6 hours, and this caused, there's the pictures that you find. And there's other event, say case of Bangalore, where in September 2022, I think one of the severe rainfall occurred, and it caused a lot of flooding. And this photographs, okay, I'm just showing from Hyderabad and Bangalore, but I think this is something which you see in almost every city in India, including Delhi and all those things. So forget about coastal cities, cities like Hyderabad, Bangalore, Bengaluru, Delhi, which were never had any problems of flooding earlier. I think in recent times you find a lot of such kind of instances occurring, and I understand even yesterday there was kind of first rainfall in Hyderabad, and then there was a lot of flooding in many areas. That's what I could read from newspapers today. So why is this flooding, urban flooding or urban flood risk increasing? To look at the causes of this urban flood risk, risk, why it's increasing. One reason we always talk about this is the climate volatility. I think in the recent time, because of climate change, the frequency and intensity of extreme rainfall is increasing. It's maybe the increase could not be attributed only to climate change, it also is attributed to urbanization and also heat island effects. And most of the time, the reaction time that we have for say the rainfall forecast, and then by the time we react, is very, very short. And the other side, we have a rapid urbanization taking place across say most of the cities. For example, Hyderabad, in fact, we did a study in 2015 where we found that Hyderabad has been expanding exponentially over the last 2 decades or 3 decades. And most of the time, the urban areas are highly say paved and then hard surfaces, and then we have say more concentration of population as well as assets at single point. And then many times in the name of urbanization, we are encroaching the water bodies. That happened in Hyderabad and Bangalore also. A lot of lakes have disappeared because people have encroached. And then we have problems with drainage problems, and then legacy assets, like we have historical assets and all those things, maintenance gaps. Most of the time, the drainage systems are not maintained properly. They also cause more incidents of flooding. And then other major issue we have is the various departments or agencies which deal with the urban flooding, or say these things are all siloed. Means we have there's not much coordination taking place between different departments, and then those so causes more delayed response as well as the flood is concerned. So what we are looking at now is we are talking in terms of urban flood resilience. How do we improve the urban flood resilience? So I just borrowed as in fact as a statement from a report submitted to House of Commons in London in 2015. I think what we need is a change in our approach towards flood management. So what is required is a fundamental change, how we view flood management from a flood defense, where we protect ourselves to one of resilience, living with and making space for water and opportunity to get more from less by seeing all forms of water as providing multiple benefits. I think this is something which we all have to learn in an urban area where we have different kinds of water. We have to try to integrate, consider them all as some. Even the storm water is a resource, not as a say nuisance for us. But coming to the concept of flood resilience, I think what the urban flood resilience depends mainly on 3 major aspects. One is we have to build our cities so that they resist. Is where we are talking about the capability of the infrastructure to withstand the flood waters, and then absorb. We talk about sponge cities where the rainwater is absorbed by the city in terms of maybe various kind of green assets, so that the water is actually stored, excess water is stored and released later, and this is what we need to do. So the cities should be able to absorb water instead of letting the water out, and then the cities should be able to recover fast from any damage caused by because of floods. So how efficiently the city can restore its asset utilities. I think this is how we change our approach. We need to design our cities to withstand, adapt, and bounce back from floods. Okay. So now if you look at the current management practices of our flood management practices, I think the major problem here is the data is fragmented. We have data coming from different sources. We have weather and hydrology data, which is mostly in terms of rainfall and newcast, low-cast speeds, as well as reservoir levels, or what drainage level, what river reservoir levels, as well as drainage or river levels, and then soil moisture and tides in the case of coastal cities. And most of this kind of data is owned by agencies like the IMD or Water Resources Department. Other side, we have drainage and utilities, which are maintained mostly by municipal corporations, so drainage and sewerage network and other utilities. And then when a flood occurs, there is water logging, and then we have problems with traffic, and then maybe we need to change the route or suggest alternate routes for in fact the traffic people traveling. So all this kind of data is owned by the traffic police or the local communities. And then other side, we have citizen data coming from citizens, and then civic bodies like, for example, disaster management groups. They try to help the people based on the calls that they get, and then the response and all those things. So this is all completely fragmented. There's not coordination, much coordination between these different agencies. Then our reaction most of the time is, say, reactive, in the sense that when a flood occurs, okay, then we start, we start getting calls that problems at different locations in the city, and then we have maybe established a war room, and then there's always a lot of patchwork being done, and then the crews have dispatched to the location to actually look after the problem, and then finally, once the event is over, people forget. There's no learning taking place from our experience of this. This is what actually is happening most of the cities. So we have, it's a linear process where there's no loop actually here. It's a, in fact, I say reactive response loop, but there's no loop here. We react as and when the flood occurs, and after once the flooding event is over, we completely forget it. So we need to change this attitude. So how do we make it more resilient? So I think I mentioned 4 pillars for to make our cities more flood resilient. One is a unified data. So we have a lot of data coming from different sources. We need to combine it and unify it. So we need to connect the weather, hydrology, drainage, and citizen phase to one real-time these things, and then so that and they're all of same standard, so that we can interoperate them. And we need to install more sensors, as well as develop models for nowcasting as well as forecasting in the city areas. Because what we have, the forecasting, hydrological forecasting models, most of them are developed for river basins, not for urban areas. Because urban areas require a different kind of approach for developing forecasting models. And then, as I already mentioned, the city should be able to absorb. So we need to create a small city infrastructure where you use different kinds of say measures like, for example, wetlands, lakes, and floodplains, permeable pavements, and then maintain the drains as well as upgrade them, so that, and then install pumping capacities locations where the drains may not be able to work. And then we need to have a proper response system, where so a coordinated loop where there's coordination between different departments. So from, instead of a war room approach, we need to go for something like a pre-rehearsed. I think, for example, firefighting agencies, they normally have rehearsal drills where they try to practice what should we do when a fight occurs, when an accident occurs. A similar kind of thing, we need to have an approach where I think we need to develop, response mechanisms, so that there's an immediate response where a flood occurs, and then obviously adapting ourselves to this flooding, because floods cannot be avoided. So we need to develop, maybe assess the risk of flooding, say develop flood zone overlays in master plans itself, and then maybe financing should be instance-based or risk-based, and then we need to have post-event reviews. So These four together, I think, can make a city more resilient. So this is where today we talk about digital infrastructure. I think there are experts who can talk more about this digital public infrastructure, or what we call as DPA. Just because this is the first talk, I just mentioned a slide. What is DPA? So DPA, I think DPA refers to the foundational digital systems and services to enable efficient, secure, and accessible delivery of public private services. I borrowed this definition from UNDP manual. And okay, India has a success story about as far as DPA is concerned. I think digital identity, I think Aadhaar card is an example of how India developed a digital ID. And then, in spite of certain limitations, I think today Aadhaar has become a very important digital document for all the humans, and we are linking it to different other utilities. And again, last 10 years, I think there have been revolution how we do the financial transactions. Even a street vendor now today has an UPI. We just go and scan and then pay. We don't need to carry any cash today. So this digital payments have happened only again because of DPI. And what we require is data exchange platforms, connectivity infrastructure, e-governance services. So why it matters? I think we'll be able to use DPI for say developing scalable, equitable public services, like the way we are using it in UPI, as well as say digital transactions are happening at small scale to high scale. So a similar way, I think we'll be able to develop scalable systems which can help us in say flood early warning as well as relief disbursement. So why DPA in urban resilience means? I think there are three critical capabilities that DPA can create in case of urban flooding. One is data fusion. As I already mentioned, the data most of the time is fragmented. We have data coming from different sources, so we need to integrate them. So this data fusion can integrate data from sensors, satellites, models, as well as engine inputs. Most of the time, for example, because we have done studies on hydrologic modeling. When we do hydrologic modeling for most of the time in urban areas, we don't have data, flow data anywhere, because we don't have any sensors or any flow data measured in cities. And most of the time, so we use data coming from citizens in terms of flood levels or flood markups that they make in the city, based on which we try to do that. But it can be done in a better way by integrating the data with the regulator. And then what we require, as I already mentioned, is a forecasting system. Yes, hydrologic models are there, and then hydrologic models have been developed for, say, cities, urban areas also. But there is a difference between the way we develop a hydrologic model for a city and a river basin. And this is where I think artificial intelligence can play a significant role, because what we require is flood forecasting models which can forecast at a very short lag, say lead time. Because most of the time, the flooding occurs very fast in urban areas. We need something which can act on real time and be able to develop forecasts at a very short lead time. And then finally, provides additional support where we can, in fact, bring together people and then take decisions on what action should be taken to, say, provide protection to people from different flooding. Okay. So maybe I think this someone will be talking more detailed about this. Obviously, what we require is 4 different layers for doing this. One is data layer, where we try to combine all the data. Then we need data exchange, metadata governance, even streaming, what we call as interruptive layers. And then what actually hydrologists can do is analytics layer, where we develop forecast models using conventional hydrological models as well as AI. I think this is where the hydrologists come into the picture, and then based on that, develop the risk scoring as well as simulate different scenarios and develop maybe risk scenarios, and then develop prioritize the areas which need more attention, and then plan for different kinds of scenarios. I think this is where the hydrologists can come into picture. And then finally, we have the government agencies come into picture in terms of service delivery layer, in terms of public alerts, different command dashboards, maybe evacuation workflows, field coordination, etc. So What we require is a data integration. So where we have rainfall feeds coming from sensors as well. I think most of the cities now are establishing automatic weather stations. For example, I understand Bangalore has more than 100 AW stations installed. Even Hyderabad also has 35 to 40. But most of the data is not maintained properly, or is not integrated, or it's not available for people to do the modeling. So we need, and then we also have data coming from forecasts coming from IMD as well as from different other agencies. So rainfall feeds, and we have satellite imagery, asset utility status, river drain levels, mobility route conditions, region reports. So the different kinds of source of data that we need, which are to be integrated. And so that's what I think DPA can enable. So how DPA can improve urban resilience is it provides a faster, repeatable decisions under pressure, and provides citizen-centric service. We need to develop a loop in terms of decision, detect, predict, prioritize, respond, learn. So this learning is useful again next cycle to do this. And then other say point of DPA is it provides citizen-centric services. So we need to, I think, this kind of experiment already has been done. I understand, in fact, when we were working for a project of urban floods along with IISc Bangalore sometime 5 years back, I think I understand Bangalore already had a kind of citizen network, where people can access the rainfall pattern at different locations when how much rainfall is occurring on their mobile. So that's only rainfall, but maybe it can be extended to provide all kind of other services which can help them to protect themselves from flood. So we need to provide multi-channel leverage in terms of mobile, SMS, and all those things, alerts. And then the content should be actionable. Like, okay, this is the area where you need to say you have to avoid if you are traveling, or this area where you have where you have services available or services problematic, or you need to provide some actionable content in terms of the delivery, as well as the design should include the entire public. So I think so what we need to develop is a policy and vision to create the DPA, build a robust infrastructure, integrate analytics, and then scale impact across departments and communities. So this is how we can build a resilient system to help our cities to withstand the floods and absorb the floods. I think, thank you. So, Ms. I hope I have met the time limit. Thank you for this opportunity, and any questions and answers I'm going to ask.
Thank you, sir. We will take the questions towards the end of the webinar, sir. People have posted it. We will be taking it towards the end so that we have time for other speakers as well. So, moving to our next speaker, I have Dr. 𝗙𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗏 ma'am. So, ma'am is again, she's from KSDMA. She's a chief hydrological modeler, as I was talking about, and she has worked in various initiatives under World Bank and flood resilience initiatives, which was focusing on water security and other climate resilient programs. So, ma'am, over to you. We would like to know on a state level, like keeping state level as a perspective, how would the preparedness on urban flood and disaster governance is a vitality today? Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Amrita, and thanks to 𝗙𝗏 Lab for this very good initiative, and which is very important on the present day, where even Professor mentioned there are multiple scenarios in all parts of the globe. Urban infrastructure is facing this particular disaster. Okay, when it comes to state level initiatives and the governance on the urban flood management, as part of Government of Karnataka, because I had worked previously, before this particular tenure here now, as a Chief Hydrological Model, I was heading the Hydrology Division in the same institute in case and DMC for almost a decade. So what goes with this is the complete understanding of urban flood management guidelines, which was released in 2010 from NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority. And as part of Karnataka government, we propose that to have, because the very basic infrastructure what is required is a ground level observation of the rainfall to understand how the city or the terrain itself behaves for different kind of rainfall. As we know, rainfall is such a variable parameter of the meteorological unit. So in 2012 and 13, Karnataka government proposed by case NDMC, we started installing telemetric rain gauges following the guidelines of NDMA. It says the best is 1 in 1 square kilometer, which is very tough to have, but the better one is 1 in 4 square kilometer of radius, one telemetric rain gauge to observe the rainfall and to have a larger data set, right? So this again will add to your topic today of AI in urban flood management, because AI doesn't work without any better data. So better data sets are very crucial in understanding. So system here in government setup, we started installing telemetric rain gauges and also telemetric weather sensors also, wherein other parameters of understanding how the storm movements into the city is, and to understand what is the wind flow and cloudiness, how it is moving, and so it will be able to help the forecasting of rainfall, will help the flood forecasting. So hydrological model is crucial, but the dynamic parameter here comes as the rainfall parameter and the subsurface and surface parameter, how it behaves. So KSDMA is Karnataka State Disaster Management Authority under the Department of Revenue Disaster Management. So there are multiple, and KSNDMC is the heart of that KSDMA. So which has the infrastructure and all that. So to address the multi-hazard vulnerability, this particular institute was set up in 1988 as the drought monitoring cell, because the drought was the major disaster which was faced by Karnataka, and later it was looking at the multi-hazard vulnerability of the state into floods, landslides, and even cyclone impacts in the western part of the state. So this was reframed as Karnataka State Natural Disaster Monitoring Center. So wherein we have not only when it comes to urban infrastructure, for Bangalore, it is the huge network of telemetric rain gauges and weather sensors. But as a whole for the state, there are more than 7,000 sensors. So when a professor also was talking about the sensor system, it is not only the rainfall, but we have to validate our hydrological model and forecast and early warning. So we have water level sensors also installed across major stormwater drains, almost 100 across the city. So which will enable us to even trigger the information of flooding on the go whenever it is filling. So we have some thresholds of, depending on the geometry of the stormwater drainage, like what amount of rainfall and what is the amount of flooding level, flowing level in the stormwater drain. It triggers a SMS or to the particular management authorities to take action on. Right. This is the existing system. As it was mentioned, Professor Uma Mahesh was also into that. I think Dr. Madhuri was also into that in the ITRA project of IISc, which started in 2013 and till 17. And post that, 2000, that was a very pilot project which was done for Bengaluru for a very small micro watershed in the city, and then upscaling it to understand how the urban flood modeling and management can be taken up for forecast and then the early warning. So 2018 to 2021. So there was one more project under DST, which was called Urban Flood Modeling for the whole Bangalore city, along with a partnership with KSNDMC and IAC was taken up. So as part of that, the dissemination part was more on to give information to the people, understanding how the rainfall is going on real time, and with the forecast also for the next 3 days forecast at every 12-hourly manner. So at every 12 hour, what is the forecast for the city for next 72 hours, 3 days, right? And accordingly, what is the flood scenario? So as we go, 3 days is a long-term forecast for a urban scenario. So it may vary when it comes nearer. So every day it changes. So there was a system connected with SAC Ahmedabad. So we had a experimental WRF model wherein for a location specific, for our 100 telemetric rain gauges, SAC was able to give us experimental rainfall forecast in this 12-hourly manner. So we used to use that, run the hydrological model, and then give 6 to 8 hours in advance for the city, how the city is going to behave for the predicted rainfall. And along with that, there is a real time. So there was this, as Sir was mentioning, that was a product of this particular project, a mobile application called Bengaluru Mega Sandesha, wherein so real-time rainfall for any area, location-specific area was, it will give along with the yesterday's rainfall and with the future scenario. And there is one particular tab called real-time flood. So real-time flooding also it is showing at a different levels. So we have kept it like a normal flooding, medium flooding, severe flooding. So different categories to understand where it is going, right? And we had one more tab which is connected to the Google Maps, and it is showing like if I'm traveling from location A to B, so I can say like my location is this, and it is exactly like a Google Map how it was. I want to go from here to point A to point B. So it will take, but along with that, this will integrate the flooding scenarios all along the route, right? So it will give information to the people, but there is no decision making. Decision making is up to the users. Right? So whether I want to go along this road, I want to take up a different route, or if the travel is not very emergency and important, I can avoid sitting back home and avoid all these traffic congestions. So that was kind of a product which was developed under this particular project. And now taking this to the next level, okay, this was all a proactive and for the decision making. Urban flood management. Okay, now with the Karnataka state, Karnataka Water Security and Resilience Program, under that this Bangalore flood modeling, what we have taken up, what I am leading now is beyond that, as what we call is like, it is not only for forecast and early warning, it is for the better planning, better stormwater master planning will be done, and all the developments which is connected to the city and urban development will look into this information. This sits as the major portion, and further development of the city, we have to look into like whether it falls in the buffer area, whether this is flood vulnerable, what is the vulnerability index for different disaster, basically not only flood is a major one. Okay, so looking into that, how developmental activities it goes, this becomes the center, and how everything else is taken up for infrastructure development and all that we are looking into. So so on this note, what Government of Karnataka had done is like between this KWSRP project and the urban flood model project, what was done in 2021 completed. as a product and understanding how the real-time study of all this is not only research, it has to go into the societal action and how it is impacting on the livelihood of the people, right? So there was one particular bigger project taken up by the government of Karnataka that is called K100 waterway project. So K100 waterway project is, K100 is one particular stormwater drain, which is a 13-kilometer drain from city center to the outfall. It is one particular watershed. We have majorly 3 watersheds in Bengaluru. So this 13-kilometer of drain was complete detailed hydrological study was done at every 100-meter, how the flood scenario or the rainfall scenario behaves was understood. And this was to look into the drainage pattern and its adequacy analysis, and how better, where exactly the node is flooding, whether it is because of the infrastructure itself, like there are multiple culverts and bridges, road crossing over the drains, and whether it is it is restricting the flow path of the drain itself inside the drain, because it is a huge it sits as a huge civil structure, right? So looking into all that, there was a complete detailed study was done. High flood level was fixed at every 100-meter all along this 13-kilometer of drain. And then hydrologic and hydraulic model was done using different platforms like SWIM, ArcGIS, and HECRAS and all that. So we understood the flooding location specifically, and with understanding the bottlenecks and where the sewage, illegal entry of sewage is coming into the drain. That is the major problem in India, right? So we call it as a stormwater drain. Only people who are working with stormwater drain knows that what is the usage of this particular infrastructure. Otherwise, people feel it is a drainage. When they say drainage, all the sewage comes into this. So this is illegal as per the NGT, right? We understood all that and then looked into that. Where is this illegal sewage? It has to be stopped, and we made that complete 13-kilometer drain as an ideal drain, what was actually designed. And then do the adequacy analysis, and then if there are still choking points, we address that with some nature-based solutions, and that particular 13-kilometer of drain is free of flooding now. So that was the one of the case study done, implementation done by government of Karnataka for Bengaluru. Then, so now we know how this study research can go into the real-time implementation, which is done, and we have taken up into a large scale now under this particular project. Yeah, I think.
Ma'am, great to hear that. I mean, you got a lot of insights when it comes to how Bangalore has been taking up, looking at urban flood resilience and using technologies which are a vitality. So we would move to our next speaker. I'll again open the panel once we are at the end of the session for all the question answers. So moving to our next speaker, I have Tanvi ma'am. So Tanvi ma'am, she is an associate director in Deloitte. As we all know, Deloitte is one of the big fours, and they are primarily working towards digital transformation. And Tanvi herself, she has an extensive experience when it comes to applying these, plans along with government. And they look at, governance, infrastructure planning, urban development with the perspective of digital transformation at the forefront. So over to you, Tanvi ma'am. We want to know, how we can build on this climate resilient cities through, your digital transformation, policy intervention, how that is happening when it comes to the perspective of, yours and, those kind of others. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm 𝗙𝗿𝗍𝗵, and I'm, as Amrita also told you, I'm associate director with Deloitte, and I have more than 14 plus years experience working in the geospatial industry, focusing on the urban domain. So I'm going to just share my screen. I think there's a lot of information that has come from the professors. So where is it? Let's share. Okay. see my screen? Visible?
Yes, yes, it is visible. The screen is visible.
Right. So I'm going to talk about building climate resilient cities through data policy and digital transformation.
Just 1 minute. We are seeing a Google search page. Not able to see the presentation.
Oh, just 1 second. I'm going to share again.
Yes, yes.
Visible now?
Yeah, now it's visible. Yes, yes. Please continue.
Right. So when we talk about cities today, they are at the epicenter of climate change, from urban flooding to heat waves to air pollution and infrastructure stress that is increasing day by day. The risk is growing both in scale and complexity. So when we talk about the geospatial analytics, what it has to offer, we have scalable frameworks that helps us strengthen the disaster resilience in urban cities through predictive analysis, real-time situational awareness, and informed decision-making by transforming geospatial data into actionable intelligence. To effectively respond on this, we must fundamentally shift from reactive disaster response to proactive data-driven resilience. And this transformation rests on 3 key pillars. First is your data intelligence, strong policy frameworks, and digital innovation powered by the geospatial analytics, AI, and IoT devices that provides us the real-time information. So when we talk about strengthening, 3 questions comes into mind, like what is the spatial understanding of the scenario, why, and how these application and decision-making can be impacted by GeoAI. So based upon our previous past experiences in Deloitte, we have demonstrated impact of geospatial intelligence in decision making, and we have observed like in the past few years that how it has helped us decrease emergency response time to 20%, how the reduction of CO2 emissions from vehicles has happened, how the creation of 4 million direct jobs and 8 million indirect jobs has happened over the year, then reduction of travel time by 25%, how all of these impact the climate resilience. So another point comes as the data, which is at the heart of climate resilient cities. Today, cities generate vast amount of data, but it is sitting in silos, as professors also talked about it. However, there's multi-source data that comes into picture, like we have satellite imagery, remote sensing data for land use, environmental monitoring. We have GIS data sets, mapping infrastructure, population information, hazard zones. We have IoT sensor data, which is tracking live rainfall information, air quality, temperature, and water levels. The importance of historical data is also important because it helps us build the climate models, which identify the trends and patterns and predict the future risks. But the real value lies actually not into collecting just this information, but to integrate and analyze it. By leveraging GIS, cities actually can visualize the data spatially, allowing decision makers to see which neighborhoods are most flooded, where the heat islands are intensifying, which population are most vulnerable, the low-lying areas from the high elevated areas. So all this helps us with the evidence-based planning. Along with this, this is where the IoT and advanced analytics transform data into actionable intelligence. How it does that? Just one second. Okay. So AI enables predictive analysis, forecasting floods, identifying climate hotspots, modeling disaster impacts before even they occur. ML models helps us improve accuracy by learning from new data. IoT devices provides us the real-time situational awareness, feeding live data into city command centers. That's where all the prediction and alerts happen to the public. Digital twin of cities simulate real-world scenarios, helping planners test resilience strategies beforehand, before the implementation even happens on ground. Together, these technologies helps us with the early warning systems, real-time monitoring, rapid response during disasters, optimize resource allocation, deploying during the emergencies. So therefore, these helps us with all these data sets helps us with shift cities from being reactive to predictive and to adaptive systems. Now, when we say technology and data, this alone is not enough. So we require the policy framework that helps us ensure the resilience is systematic, scalable, and sustainable as well. So there are a few key policy areas that we can look into when we talk about urban flooding. We can identify, have the urban planning regulations, building climate sensitive zones, green building mandates, restriction in flood prone and prone areas and high risk area. There should not be any construction that is happening. Along with that, we can invest in our infrastructure. We can have resilient drainage systems, climate-proof transport networks, renewable energy integrations, and along with that, disaster risk management. So we have to work with the disaster departments which are into planning and mitigation of the disasters. So robust emergency response systems can be in place, climate insurance frameworks can be in place, so that can encourage people to build such infrastructures. Community resilience programs that can bring in all the citizens into help supporting the build governance models to counter the urban flooding and other disaster that happens. So we can also build, and all of these policies can help us build the governance model like integrated urbans, breaking silos across departments, having public-private partnership for innovation and funding, community partnership, ensuring local knowledge and inclusivity. So all these can actually help us with bring in some innovative mechanisms, such as carbon pricing and climate budgeting to align, economic incentive to different sectors. Resilience bonds and green financing can also help. So that's what we are actually looking into when we work with the government. We want to figure out a solution. We can build models and we can build AI tech. We can bring in the GOI technology, but we have to cater to. We also have to bring in some innovative mechanisms to bring these models to the citizens or the different sector people from different sector. So resilience bonds and green financing is something very important, which supports the sustainable investments in these building of the infrastructure. Mandatory climate risk disclosure to drive accountability. So all these things helps institutionalize the resilience, ensuring it is embedded in every layer of the urban development and not just the post, the implementation of the models. Then finally, we talk about the digital transformation, which is using GOI. So when we talk about GOI, it has geospatial intelligence plus AI plus real-time devices that can put in place to gather the data. So urban flooding is becoming increasingly complex due to rapid urbanization and all the factors that we all know very well. So modern cities are evolving into smart ecosystems. So that is what we need to build in, right? So it should have integrated command and control centers. It should have cloud-based data platforms, interoperable digital system across agencies. So these platforms actually unify data from GIS, IoT, and AI systems into a single pane of glass. So when we talk about your command and control centers, it is not just the data that we can gather from different sources, but we can visualize, analyze, and then make a decision how to help in different situations. So for example, when a disaster strikes, this approach ensures timely, coordinated, and efficient response towards the. So sir was talking about the flooding in Hyderabad yesterday. I'm in Hyderabad right now, and I was also here, and we are actually supporting the department, to identify the areas that will be waterlogged after a particular, amount of rainfall that happens. So we are still, So we are actually trying to predict it in advance and then try to build, have a planning in advance how we can mitigate these situations. So when we talk why this matters and understanding GOI is very important. It enables predictive analysis, anticipating risk before they occur, and monitoring evolving, and we can monitor different patterns and different areas where it is actually happening, and we can create different events, and then that's what it is. And so this is what we have been doing. And when we talk about GOI, so it cannot just, confine to like, we have restrictions to use certain kind of technology. So when we have the geospatial data, we can actually work with, there are various technology that is available, be it open source or proprietary, and actually we can utilize all of it and build different models that will help us with, build a reactive or predictive or an adaptive response to these things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you, 𝗵𝗵, for setting the context of how digital transformation is actually happening. Because I think it's company like yours and also company like ours who are sitting at the purview of building this digital public infrastructures, even as Uma Mahesh sir was talking about, and even ma'am was talking about it. So it was really insightful. So now, moving on, like since Tanvi was speaking about, and I am also hearing from Uma Mahesh sir and Shubha ma'am, what I want to do is like to showcase, like something, how these products work in field and how we have been actually deploying this solution at field. So I'll share my screen and showcase you not more like, 2, 3 use cases of how these urban flood management and these kind of you know applications are taking into place. So I hope my screen is visible.
It is.
Yeah, let me just make this.
Yes, Amrita, it's visible.
Yeah. So as everyone was talking about, and as most of you know, Vasta Labs, we are also like, a climate tech company where we sit at one of the, pioneers today in the industry when it comes to developing these solutions which are using heavy AI and hydrology models. So since I was hearing from everyone, I just thought to, given the attendees are also there, they should see how these systems look like when they're deployed, along with our partners, along with our customers and policymakers who support us throughout. So one such use cases which I would like to show is the 2D simulations which we are doing for one of our customers. This is again Kerala. What you are seeing is the city of Kerala near the Kochi airport. So what I'm showing over here is a 2D simulation of how, whenever there is a flood incoming, we use heavy historical data and look at hydrology and climate parameters to give flood inundation when it comes to cities which are very much flood prone areas. So what you are seeing over here is a 2D simulation of how this flood might affect given an area. Looking at buildings, and as you can see, it is already showing you in the simulation how many buildings might get affected, what will be the road length that might get affected. These kind of statistics will come into play. And over here, why this is important is also which Tanvi was talking about, like yesterday in Hyderabad, we had a heavy rainfall. Traffic optimization is something which comes into play when we have these kind of simulations ahead of time, like 7 days ahead, which we are also doing. Then similarly, one of the other use cases which we are doing is, taking it a notch, like going to directly like building a digital twin simulation of, an individual property, let's say a manufacturing unit or an industry, which is in a flood prone area. And given urban floods and today the way cities have been rapidly, the infrastructure is developing rapidly. So you never know which is a flood prone area once the infrastructure are at place. So over here, what we are seeing is a 3D simulation, which is giving again the inundation to understand how this simulation might happen when there is a flood. Here, what we are looking at is a flood risk analysis, which is again a little next on the go to understand climate change and those kind of aspects as well, to see how flood might affect this given zone, what will be the depth of water, how, if we are, playing, when we are plugging and playing with the, product, we can understand how much will be the depth of water, how this area might get affected. So those kind of applications. And these are again, as many of my fellow speakers were talking about, this is what a digital public infrastructure looks like building a digital twin, understanding, doing a lot of historical analysis and understanding how these areas will be, affected, given having that buffer in your hand and understanding how flood might affect a specific zone. And then on top of that, what we would do, we would also, kind of, look at how, let's say, even when there is a given property, given climate change, like let's say when we are looking at, 5 years or 10 years down the line, we would be able to understand how this area might get affected given floods. So how walls can be, built around this area in a 3D simulation, as you can see, walls can be how that is getting built. What should be the height of the wall? What should be? So these are again small things where companies like ours and even Jacobs and Deloitte and many other, along with the government, today we are working in these kind of technologies which are building such digital infrastructure at scale. And then, of course, when we are talking about urban flood, today climate change is one of the crucial topics. Not only today, it has been going on for a very long time now. And looking at climate risk, its analysis, temperature, weather, rainfall. Uma Maheshwar was talking about nowcasting. We have our systems which are, which give nowcasting, let's say in the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes, how rainfall will be happening, given flash rains and flash floods which happen in cities today. So those kind of, heavy modeling is being leveraged by Vassal Labs today. And I just wanted to show the practicality of these applications, after hearing from our distinguished speakers. And I mean, yeah, this is again a very short impact, which we have been working on over the past years. We are working with state scale disaster information, disaster management authorities with Andhra Pradesh, with Kerala. We are doing the flood forecasting and early warning systems. We have built, 3D simulations when it comes to at a global scale, and again, 7 days ahead of early warning, nowcasting. So this is how, when you put DPI into application, that is how these systems would look like and are already being implemented by the government, by company like ours, and many other companies who are working on the same field, like Tanvi was talking about GeoAI and these kind of aspects. So I just wanted to showcase that from Vasa's side. So now moving to our next speaker, I have Mr. Sandeep from Jacob. So he has a global experience when it comes to water infrastructure, hydraulic engineering, flood risk management. He has worked around complex infrastructures, because we can talk about the digital and policy intervention, but we do have to understand how these infrastructure are coming into place when we look at advanced, resilient and sustainable solutions. So, Sandeep, we would like to, hear about you, how you are leveraging digital engineering and smart infrastructures when it comes to, flood risk reduction. So, over to you, Sandeep, sir. Please continue.
Yeah, thank you, Amrita. Firstly, thanks for the invite to this webinar. I really appreciate it. And I'll start by sharing my screen. Just give me a second. Yeah. Let me know if my screen is visible, please.
It has not come up yet, Sandeep.
Okay.
Sir, once you share it, it will come.
Yeah.
It's coming up. No, still it is coming up, but yeah, now it's visible. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Visible, sir.
Right. So I think we've had several talks earlier describing the problem in hand, the urban floods. So within India, you can see like we are exposed to several kinds of issues related to floods, based on where you are located geographically. So if you're by the coastal sides, you experience tropical cyclones, and there's coastal flooding. And if you're up in the north, flash floods, landslides, due to snow melt or extreme rainfall. And in urban areas, a lot of pluvial flooding, I would say, during extreme rainfall events, poor drainage infrastructure, and extreme urban, densely populated urban areas. And then, of course, the major problems with river flooding as well, like rivers, extreme rainfall in upper catchments. Rivers experience a lot of flood volume, flooding, and then that potentially causes dam breach situations, and it all impacts various health, lives, and economic statistics. If you see one of the 𝗙𝗵𝐶 reports that you see, on average, I think in India 1,500 to 1,800 people lives are lost every year. So this is, and also one of the trends that you see is like how climate change is compounding all these risks, and brings about a lot of uncertainty as well, because while climate change is being studied, but it's still not completely deterministic. No one really knows what's going to happen. Like, so it brings a lot of uncertainties. There's a lot of climate models that people working on to predict impacts of climate change. So when it comes to urban flood management, how do you plan drainage infrastructure, or urban cities or developments or major critical infrastructure? So traditionally, what we've been doing is looking at past historical rainfall events and assess what could be the critical rainfall, and then plan or design infrastructure accordingly. But now, as I mentioned the factors earlier, there's so much going on in terms of climate change. There's so much variability that can be seen on the rainfall events, and also you can also see like some coastal cities, or some areas where you experience both or coastal, pluvial, and river flooding. So there is a compounded risk of flooding from various sources. So now, in terms of planning and design of various infrastructures or urban cities, it's very important that a range of future events are considered and taken into account while planning, or designing any such infrastructures. So if I just move to the next slide, where I talk about one of the projects that we're currently working on in Melbourne, Australia. It's a massive catchment, 1,700 square kilometers catchment that we are currently working on to develop a flood mapping, across various waterways or various watercourses within this. So this enables future development planning, development of flood zones, and future development planning, and also the major urban areas which are impacted due to floods are also it also helps, these studies also help to mitigate flood risks to such areas. In this study, we have also incorporated urban drainage network within those cities, which is underground stormwater pipe network, and integrated that with the riverine flood model. So very, very complex hydrological and hydraulic modeling that was employed. One of the key important aspects of this project was that we've managed to run several hundreds of simulations using advanced cloud computing and automation tools, using some machine learning algorithms as well for calibration against historical data. And also in terms of digital solutions, geospatial, obviously GIS plays a major role in processing all these results, producing flood maps, and conveying this information to local authorities, stakeholders, and public communities. So this is one real example where we're currently delivering using a lot of digital computational modeling and digital solutions to understand risk and then plan and mitigate flood risk. But really, how is this in the era of AI? Like how do we take it up a notch? Like how do we evolve from there? How do we look at AI as a potential solution? So at 𝗙𝗵𝐶, we have, maybe some of you have noticed that recently we've launched what is called as a 𝗏𝗏𝐼Q. It's a platform for providing AI-enabled flood resilience solutions. So this fundamentally, I think, as 𝗿𝗏𝐼 covered earlier, all the concepts are pretty much embedded in 𝗏𝗏𝐼Q. You can see that it unifies forecasting, planning, and enables development of capital strategy. How do you want to invest in future solutions which will enable mitigation of flooding, and also it helps coordinate responses real time as a flood event or as the rainfall events do occur. So let me just further dive into how this works, and this is basically, again, like I mentioned, it just builds on some of the principles that were touched upon by other speakers today. So at the basic level, the first part is the intelligence layer, where flood AI combines systems and data related to both above ground and below ground. Above ground could be various rainfall radar data or gauge data, and then various surface runoff, like being river channels, or and also boundary conditions could be the rivers and coastal conditions, like information from a tide gauge could be that, or a level and flow gauge, and also various operations related to reservoirs or pump stations. And then below ground, these could be your underground layer, where any below ground assets such as stormwater pipe networks or wastewater systems, any pump stations within those networks, this all such information can be fed in, and then this will really be the base of your system. So if I just move on, yeah. So in this slide, you can see the kind of three boxes. The one to the left is your eyes on the system, which is just talk about the kind of data that we deal with. So these are the ones where you monitor and understand what is happening during a particular rainfall event, above ground and below ground. Then that feeds into our AI platform, and then that evolves next to the middle bit, really the big one, which is analytics and insights. So understanding what is happening to the system real time, both above ground and below ground. For example, is the below ground system experiencing any blockages, or any unexpected behavior that is seen compared to what we know already from various training models or analysis. So the base level, we would already understand what is a typical day like, typical scenario like, when a particular rainfall occurs. But in a real-time scenario, when the operation is not as you would expect, then you try to, use that information to guide appropriately. That again feeds into the next bit. So you can prioritize your alerts, responses, and help teams coordinate actions and operate and resolve this all the situation in real time. And in addition, I think one of the major aspects is these systems help help plan long-term investment. So if you have these AI models already set up, right, like you can understand various scenarios why flooding is happening, and then you employ various mitigation options, hundreds, thousands of them, understand which ones are yielding better results and the best sort of scenario to mitigate flooding. So then you can help phase your capital investment, that is from the government agencies or local communities or councils, who can then invest that money and then appropriately develop these mitigation strategies. So just as a couple of examples, this last two slides of mine. One is how we've applied this. This is an example in the UK. So obviously, just before I go on to this, data is the key, right? Like you need a lot of data, for training, a lot of smart infrastructure, smart data like sensor, telemetry, gauge data and all that. So this was very much available, over the years, having worked with likes of United Utilities, is a UK-based water utility company. So you can see like it is about 78,000 kilometers of sewer network that it has, and then about 3,000 pumping stations. So there's a lot of data. We've worked with them over the years and helped them install sensors at various locations in the network. And then once we've done that, we've built or used our AquaDNA tool, which basically simulates everyday conditions during a present data existing condition or a future climatic scenario or any such conditions, and then it will tell you how a typical day would look like in terms of for a given rainfall, what should be the typical scenario in terms of flows and how the pumps should operate, etc. Then when the real-time operation occurs, we were able to understand any by looking at the way the model giving these outputs, we are able to understand any blockages, any issues where flooding is occurring, reasons for that, which is typical to what we've already observed. And then that means we could guide staff to go check out certain locations. For example, if a pump is not operating to its capacity or to as per its expectation, so we could at real time help solve such situations. Ultimately, these kind of tools, we've provided a really great value for the client, in terms of reduction to external flooding. You can see like 15% nearly of flooding situations and 20% reduction in internal sewer flooding. That's that. And the major one is the 15% reduction in pollution events. In the UK, as some of you might be aware, like all these utility companies have hefty fines will be imposed on them if they cause any pollution events. So it's all private owned, but then the government requires hefty fines. So reduction in such pollution events really helped the client avoid such fines, and obviously that feeds into these kind of smart sensors and telemetry kind of information that client support. So then the final slide I have is just some other examples of where and how we are using these tools. Obviously, I've covered on the United Utilities, but focus on this particular one. This is more on the surface flooding side, where you can see we've built river hydraulic models and for a certain number of scenarios, and then we've used AI to train the model, use that results to train the AI, and then eventually evaluated billions of mitigation scenarios, tested like various combinations of levees, flood basins, and natural flood management approaches, even property level resilience that was considered. And then based on such outcomes, we were able to help the city plan how and when they could invest in mitigating flooding to those areas. And yeah, many such examples as well, like for example, we've worked on some cities where how sensors, if there are limited number of sensors available in the network, how do you optimize the location of these sensors? If you're looking to invest much more money into having more sensors, how do you optimize that? Again, through these AI powered models, we were able to guide them appropriately and ultimately help them invest appropriately. Yeah, that's it from my end.
Thank you, Sandeep sir, for this wonderful presentation and giving us an overview of how complex, engineering systems and infrastructure, how you guys are working when it comes to flood resilience. So, moving to our next speaker, I'll request 𝗍𝗿 ma'am to please switch on her camera. So, ma'am is again, she is a professor. Dr. 𝗍𝗿 ma'am is a professor in the Department of Civil Engineering in NIT Surathkal, Karnataka. She works on remote sensing GIS and what resources engineering, flood modeling, these kind of applications. So, ma'am, we would like to know today, given geospatial intelligence modeling and decision support, how urban flood management is happening, given these kind of decision support systems. Please enlighten us on that. Also, ma'am, please keep it 10 minutes because we are already kind of moving towards the end. And yeah, over to you, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. So the topic which that is being floated, it is a really a good topic, that is AI powered urban resilience, right? And resilience. So in context with this, as speakers prior to me, they were talking, all of them were talking about the causes and effects of the urban flooding in terms of causes like rapid urban development and soil question clogging. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
You are audible.
Yeah, thank you. Under-designed infrastructure, clogging, solid waste clogging, drainage encroachment. So all these things leads to finally the overly infrastructure damage, economic loss, displacement of communities, and water quality deterioration. So yeah, I just want to give the glimpse of how it is has been taken up as a global scenario. Since 1985, the global settlements in high zones have expanded their maximum capacity like 122% according to the World Bank. Then further, again 1.8 billion people means higher than risk of around 89 percentage living in low and middle income countries. So under this scenario, again, from one more report, Water Resources Institute, Aqueduct Flood 2, they have actually projected the damage that may happen due to the urban flooding around 712 billion by 2030. So I think there is a necessity now actually to look upon the urban flooding scenarios and to forecast it properly as a proactive measure. Then when I narrowed down into our major South Indian cities, as we are all aware of the Chennai urban floods in 2015, Hyderabad floods in 2020, then Kerala floods in 2018. Due to this, the major key takeaways may be due to the poor drainage infrastructure and the higher wetland systems that are available, which means it is not providing any passage to the water to get into the tracks. That is what I feel. And the natural process like the proper reservoir release operations that were not into the under proper control, which finally led to such a situations in particular to our some major South Indian cities. So when looking upon to the actual scenario, so we have a very traditional model of comprehensive flood model, like we follow the steps like study, definition of the study area, data collection, then hydrologic analysis, hydraulic analysis, then finally flood mapping and risk assessment. All these things we do. Then finally we have improved a bit based upon the data availability and other things. Like we have integrated this RIS, RS, remote sensing and GIS based flood forecasting models, where we have a separate set of data acquisition through our sensors which are available with us, like DEM images or LiDAR images or satellite imagery, aerial images. Then we go for which data pre-processing we do, then data after pre-processing we'll be going for, we apply any hydrologic or hydraulic modeling integrated together to go for flood prediction and flood forecasting. Finally, through the using the major tools like HYCRAS, MyFlood, Flow, and other flood estimation handbooks and things. So once the benefit of this GIS models are over, combining different type of data into a single framework using a wide range of information or supporting spatial analysis and visualizing, that is become a greater impact due to this geospatial analysis as coming to our means handy. I can say that it is a handy tool that we can use it, and only thing is it should be person should be properly trained to use all such data sets to use the data sets into an apt way. Then in this particular aspect, one such case study related to the 𝗿𝗂 that is a small case study which I have taken because earlier 2019 𝗿𝗂 has been flooded like anything. So using the latest land use land cover, it has been used means using the satellite imagery, and the data sets may include RSGS, then LiDAR data, then AFWS, all these data sets we have used and to develop to assess the bank erosion, and then finally it has given river bank protection. It is useful for to assess the river bank protection, countries planning and infrastructure development too. So then moving on, how again this can be improved. So that then there it has the choice has been into the picture now. This post Corona, like flood modeling using AI and ML. This is now actually into it is a buzzing word, I can say. It's a buzzing word where everyone, in every field, not everyone, every field they are trying to use all this AI and ML with respect to their applications. So with respect to our application, when we are looking into the flooding conditions, this model depends upon the historical and real-time data, making them useful for faster flood warning systems can be. established. So this entire process involves these the three primary stages, which are data collection, then selection of the appropriate machine learning models, then flood forecasting, prediction, and risk assessment. So the major data sources may be from water level time series, tabular data with meteorological parameters, and remote sensing data time series from stations. So the ML models may be broadly classified. Actually, it is something like regression models, classification algorithms, clustering algorithms, and time series analysis, which may finally lead to the flood forecasting and risk mapping. As speakers prior to me, even they have emphasized and they have developed some activity models. I used that 𝗂𝗏𝗀𝗏 and I think so. I felt this is one such kind of thing that has been applied and it is been dealt for flood prediction and forecasting using ML methods. So, but different methods having different notions and these advantages and disadvantages, I can say. So, say the methods may be very like decision tree, random for support vector mission, nearest neighbors, neural networks, or deep learning, maybe different methods. So, it is having its own limitations, because some method we can say like random forest, the advantages is high accuracy, robust to overfitting, then handle missing values, even multidimensional data. But the disadvantages, it can be, it is something like underlying decision process, difficult to analyze and comprehend. Longer training periods and more storage space is required, because this is how. So at what time and at what situation the model, the best suitable model, which is to be picked and properly adapted to our requirement, or otherwise it is something like time consuming. We may be wasting time in case of assessing or forecasting, even the model training itself, which may be not good for us to be on the safer side. So, which model optimization? I'll say that selection of the best suitable method, it's a big task in case of intelligence system to adapt. When we undergo to handle such, I can say, heterogeneous data sets. Data sets includes maybe the rainfall runoff, temperature, whatever it is, and then satellite imagery or aerial imagery. So it's a kind of diverse data set, I can say. So picking up proper methodology is at most priority. So when doing so, major challenges which we face is handling data itself is a complex, then urbanization, then model assumptions. So these are the major challenges that we face during the flood modeling. Here it is now Bangalore, where it is the monsoon period. Again, we are facing the urban flooding in the in our city itself. Well, still we are looking into the solutions for that by using this methodologies to best of it to avoid urban city flooding. So hope I have finished.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your like giving the problem statements which cities are going through, as you told right now, from Bangalore and other cities as well. So since we're kind of reaching the end of webinar, so we would move to 𝗙𝗵𝗍𝗂𝗍 sir. Sir has always been recently he was there in one of our agri webinars. We heard from him. He's like a lot of insights were discussed. So, sir is again a distinguished academic and water management expert. He serves as a professor and also outreach advisor for IIT Dharwad. He has an extensive experience across various sectors and specializes in hydrology, water resource management, urban stormwater and urban flood is one of his strong focus areas. So, sir, over to you. Can you give us a little bit of gist about what kind of innovation and what kind of research is happening for future-ready flood-resilient cities? We see that into the perspective. So, over to you, sir. Sir, just one request of 10 minutes because we want to address the questions as well. So over to you, sir. Please continue.
Thank you so much. And let me just share my presentation. Is my presentation visible?
Yes, sir.
It's visible.
Yeah, good. Now that is the topic suggested to me, research and innovation for future-ready flood-resilient cities. So if you look at the world we design is changing. We talk about Chennai flood, Australian wildfires, Himalayan glaciers collapse, Cape Town drought. So the climate is changing faster than our systems can adopt as per United Nations. And extremes are no longer rare. They are becoming our new normal. So that is what the present life is. The central truth is climate change is a water story. Every impact, every crisis, every solution, it's all about water. Water connects climate to life. And we know all about water. Water is the lens through which climate change becomes real. If we understand water better, we can manage the future better. So why traditional assumptions fail? The traditional way in the past, we depended too much on history, historical dependence, fixed return periods, stationary assumptions, predictable variability, designed for safety. But the new reality, the present future is a non-stationary world. Return periods are changing, climate non-stationarity, extremes are the new normal, infrastructure under stress. So assumptions that ensured safety for decades are now creating vulnerability. So stationary is dead, adoption is now a necessity, not an option. So from stationary to non-stationary ideology, why is stationarity was assumed? Because climate and hydrology variables are constant over time. Past statistics represent the future, that's the assumption that we had. Design and risk estimated from historical records remain valid. Systems plan for fixed future with unknown certainty. That's what we assumed in the past. Why now the shift? Rising greenhouse gases are altering the energy and water cycles, changing patterns in rainfall, snow, evaporation, soil moisture. More examples, we have got longer dry spells, shifting seasons. Human influence is now detectable in all major hydrological cycles. So climate variability is now overshadowed by climate change. The future is outside the range of the past. So planning with the past is like driving forward while looking only in the rear back mirror. So that's what we see. So climate models are now our windows for the future. Models are not perfect, but the indispensable tools for understanding a complex and changing world as by IPCC 2021. So what do climate models simulate? Atmosphere, oceans, land surface, cryosphere, human influence. How do climate models work? They divide the Earth into 3D grid cells, physics equations solve process, computer simulates interaction, outputs help us analyze future. So there are many climate models available, and we find the climate models do not predict the future. They help us prepare for a range of possible futures. So that is what we are now talking about: better science, better decisions, stronger communities. So every flood is also a forecast. So better models, timely insights, prepared communities, fewer losses. So forecast today will to predict tomorrow. So now you find that's a background. So as urbanization accelerates and climate change intensifies, floods have become one of the most frequent and devastating natural hazards affecting worldwide. So the floods in India that you have seen in Mumbai, Chennai, Bengaluru, and Hyderabad remind us that the traditional flood management approaches are no longer sufficient. The challenges before us is not merely to control floods, but to create future-ready, resilient cities that can anticipate, absorb, adopt, and recover from flood events. So we are urbanizing very, very fast. As for the record, India is the second largest urban system next to China. We are urbanizing very fast. Now just look at this scenario. This is from the McKinsey Global Institute analysis, where they've seen the urbanization progression from 1991 to 2030. You find by 2030, 40% of India's population, 40% of India's population is going to urban area. So we're going to have a problem. So just to see some records, in 1951, we had 2,800 urban local bodies. Now we have got about 5,400. Number of class 1 cities where towns were 7, now we got over 550. Number of metros at time independence was 5, now we got 75. So, and cities have become engines of growth. So you find the urban flood is a growing challenge. The 3 major factors are driving urban flood risk: the climate change, extreme rainfall events are becoming more frequent and intense. Rainfall that once occurred once in 100 years is now occurring much more often. Rapid urbanization, roads, buildings, pavements, reduce natural infiltration, increasing surface runoff. Encroachment of natural drainage system is very commonly noticed. So it occupies wetlands, lakes, floodplains, and natural drainage channels that historically stored excess water. As a result, even a few hours of intense rainfall can paralyze an entire city, which we are observing every time. So moving from flood control to flood resilient, that is what we are now talking about. So traditional approaches focused on bigger drains, higher embankments, more pumping stations. While these remain important even now, modern research advocates a broader concept that is called flood resilience. So a flood resilient city should be able to predict flood risk accurately, minimize damage during floods, maintain critical services, recover rapidly after floods, adapt continuously to changing conditions. So the key research areas innovations would be: one is the AI and data-driven flood forecasting. AI is revolutionizing flood prediction. Researchers now integrate satellite data, weather forecast, river flow measurements, IoT sensor networks, historical flood records, machine learning, etc. can provide can provide a highly localized flood forecasting hours or even days in advance. For example, a flood forecast system developed by organizations such as in India, the India Meteorology Department and CWC utilize advanced analytics to improve warning capabilities. This enables timely evacuation, traffic management, and emergency response functions. Then we also talk about digital twins of cities. One of the most exciting innovations is the concept of digital twins. Now, a digital twin is a virtual replica of a city that continuously receives real-time data. Using digital twins, city planners can simulate extreme rainfall events, drainage failures, dam releases, urban development scenarios. Example in recently, the best example is Singapore, which has pioneered a smart city platform that support urban planning and resident assessment. Such tools help decision makers evaluate solutions before investing millions in physical infrastructure. Then we now have to go for nature-based solution. Research increasingly demonstrates that nature can be one of the best flood defenses. Examples include smart city concept. The cities are designed to absorb, store, and reuse rainwater through urban wetlands, green roofs, permeable pavements, rain gardens, urban forests. Now, one of the examples is in China, they launched extensive smart city programs in multiple cities. These solutions provide multiple benefits like flood mitigation, improved air quality, reduce urban heat island effects, enhance biodiversity. Then we talk about smart drainage systems. Conventional drainage systems are very passive. Future drainage systems are becoming intelligent through real-time sensors, automated gates, smart pumps, cloud-based monitoring. So these systems can dynamically manage water flow during events. Example, several European cities use smart stormwater network that optimize drainage performance during extreme weather. Research shows that such systems can significantly reduce flood risk without major expansion of existing infrastructure. Then we use the remote sensing and GIS technologies. The modern flood management, we rely heavily on satellite imagery, drones, GIS mapping, and LiDAR service. So these technologies enable flood hazard mapping, vulnerability assessment, real-time monitoring, post-disaster damage assessment. So this was actually used in the a couple of years back when we had the Kerala floods. The satellite-based measure assessments played a critical role in planning recovery and mitigation measures. Then we talk about resilient infrastructure design. The future-ready cities require infrastructure design to take care of the
can you a few minutes more? We have to take up the questions as well.
Yeah, we are finishing. So research focus on climate resilient roads, elevated transport system, flood resistant buildings, adaptive drainage network. So instead of designing for historical rainfall records alone, engineers now consider future climate projections. So the best example is the Rotterdam approach, where they talk about the water plazas, multifunctional public space that temporarily store water, flood waters during storms. So this transforms flood risk into manageable urban design. So we learned a lot of things from the global success stories. Rotterdam, water squares for temporary storage, climate adaptive urban design, integrated flood management. From Tokyo, we talk about massive underground flood diversion tunnels, advanced flood forecasting systems. Singapore has smart water management, integrated urban planning, extensive monitoring system. Copenhagen has cloud-based management systems. So blue-green infrastructure. So these cities demonstrate that resilience achieved through a combination of engineering, technology, governance, and community participation. Now, what do we do in India? So India's rapidly growing cities provide a unique opportunity to integrate resilience from the planning stage itself. So research projects should include AI-enabled flood coasting techniques, urban digital twins, climate resilient infrastructure, nature-based solutions, smart stormwater management, community-centric early warning system. So initiatives under this, under programs like Smart City Mission, can serve as a powerful platform for implementing these innovations. So as we look forward toward this future, the question is no longer whether floods can occur, but how well our cities are prepared to withstand them. The cities of tomorrow must be smart enough to predict floods, green enough to absorb the excess water, strong enough to protect critical infrastructure, adaptive enough to cope with climate uncertainty. Research and innovation provide the tools, but resilience ultimately depends on collaboration among engineers, planners, policymakers, scientists, industry, and citizens. So let us work together to transform our cities from flood-prone urban centers into future-ready flood-resilient ecosystem that safeguard lives, livelihoods, and sustainable development.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the insights.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you.
For giving us good development. What kind of innovations we should focus on. So now I will quickly move to the question, since we have 15 minutes before we end the webinar. So we'll start from, as we go, I'll start from the reverse order. So Devata ma'am, the question is for you. So it goes like, how is geospatial intelligence changing the way cities identify flood-prone areas and prioritize resilience?
So yes, this can be done. Okay, this proper planning, and this can be taken up by looking into the advanced technologies and methodologies. As we see, traditional approaches actually fall short due to the time-to-time availability and daily progress that is missing in case of which we use in our approach modeling methods. And moreover, also it is region specific. So actually, if you see flood risk modeling, it actually talks about how water gets interacted in the urban and natural environment, which is crucial actually for resilience planning. Therefore, these things moreover, the data availability and the present data, that post-COVID scenario, the system is completely different, that dependent for most of the things. I will not say all the things. Most of it is completely on the other side, digital world. So there is a need that we have to go with. I'll put it in two ways, maybe geospatial AI as well as a digital technology. In case of digital geospatial AI, where we use all sort of data diverse things which we will be taking into the system, and we start because due to the application of ML methods, which is because it is handy for us to, because also it can handle the complex situations in our system actually. So which we use that developing our identification of the flooding hotspots, and accordingly we can plan for our flood warning systems as a proactive measure. When we talk about in digital twin technology, as actually Professor Jayakumar sir and other Professor Maheshwar sir, they have already most of the speakers they have discussed on that it is a physical system, that it is a replication physical system with the implication of real-time data. As actually the major difference here, what we get in case of digital is it daily monitors the system as well as it will diagnose, analyze the system, because which is doing all these things together actually inside the system, which is useful for our where we are missing in the traditional approach day to day or daily basis. The information is that part which it is a highly advantageous side when we go with our digital twin technologies. I will put it as these two technologies can be go together for the modern technology development, finally to reach a sustainable and a smart city infrastructure planning. Yeah, it can be used for policy makers for informed decision making and other things, time to time based on the situations. Useful partnership.
So, ma'am, so Dr. Shubha ma'am, I have like two questions for you, as you can see on the chat. So, one is someone has asked, can you like what kind of IoT sensor had been deployed in Karnataka?
Okay.
One.
For in Karnataka, under KCNDMC, there are telemetric weather stations and telemetric rain gauge stations, and there are ultrasonic and also radar-based water level sensor, which is implemented, especially for the flood monitoring and also for reservoir management. Even in the reservoirs, also radar water level sensors are installed. Yeah.
So, ma'am, there was another questions as well. 1 minute. Yes. Just 1 minute, ma'am.
I think I answered for 2 of the questions in the chat.
Yeah, okay, you have answered for 2 questions in the chat. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Okay, ma'am. Then we'll move to the next question. It's for Sandeep sir. From an engineering standpoint, sir, how can cities balance investments, between traditional drainage infrastructure and emerging digital solutions? Can you give us a little bit of gist on that, very briefly?
I think it depends really on the city's appetite and the condition where they are. So traditional infrastructure is obviously very key. At first level, you need to have the capacity to collect and convey runoff. No matter how much smart sensors you can add, if the capacity is not there at a basic level, infrastructure is not there, it's not going to be useful. So I think that is one. So once you have these smart sensors are like an intelligence layer. They help you optimize operations of your infrastructure that is already in place. So I think it's a balance that based on where your infrastructure is, and you add on these additional sensors and such network. And in addition, also I think there is a requirement at an institutional level, the capacity, capability to handle such SCADA and systems. I know there's other areas where we're doing this, but doing it all on the flood management space is also really important. So yeah, that's how I think they can employ a balanced approach.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Then I just have a question for Tanvi ma'am. Ma'am, many cities are investing in digital transformation, as we know. So, how can urban flood resilience be embedded into broader smart city and infrastructure modernization initiatives?
So basically, smart city initiatives by integrating flood risk data into core digital platforms is very important. Like, for example, GIS-based urban planning systems can be in place, IoT-enabled drainage can be in place, water level monitoring, consistent water level monitoring in real time, and all that can be embedded into the real-time command control centers. So that in the centralized place, it all can be, analyzed, and then the decisions can be made. However, along with that, when designing the infrastructures, climate resilience can be baked into it. So smart drainage systems can be there, permeable surfaces can be, implemented, flood resilient transport can be in place, and all of this can be used to in the GOI, or using the GOI technology, we can predict, we can build the predictive analysis for building the early warning systems and scenario planning. So that's how we can, build in to the centralized system for everyone to use.
Right, ma'am. Moving on to the next question. Dr. Mahesh sir, what are the foundational data sets and systems every city should prioritize to build a truly scalable flood intelligence framework?
In fact, the most important data as far as the urban flood forecasting and developing flood resilience system is the rainfall data, high resolution rainfall data. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of resolution data in the cities. Now, in fact, a lot of cities are installing AWS, like I gave an example of Bangalore city, I think Dr. Shubha has already mentioned, but I think they're not sufficient. We require a large, say, very high resolution rainfall data. That's one, I think, important aspect as far as data set is concerned. Other aspect, I think, in terms of geospatial data, I think we lack the access to high resolution topographical data. In fact, for most of our studies that we have done on urban flooding as part of the project, which we did with IISc Bangalore, 𝗖𝗄𝗃, and other people, we could get only 30 meters at the most from NRSC, 10 meters resolution, but even 10 meters resolution data is actually available at cost, not freely in public domain. But cities like, I think cities in the cities, for the kind of simulation that, in fact, Amruta has shown when she during a presentation to show which areas get flooded, I think we need very, very high resolution data, maybe less than 1 meter resolution. I think that should be available in the public domain. As of now, we don't have that kind of data in the country, and then I think that's one thing we have to focus on. Because then only we'll be able to exactly tell where exactly the flooding will take place, what is the inundation, what's the risk involved, and all these things. I think today with the sensor technology, I think it's installing sensors at different to measure the flow data and then also rainfall. Anyway, rainfall, I think a lot of people are measuring it in terms of automated weather station, but I think we need to go for the more number of sensors to monitor the drainage systems. And so this, I think, the basic data requirement for any urban flood studies.
Thank you, sir. Lastly, I have a question for Jaykumar, sir. Sir, wanted to know, like, given your expertise, like, let's say if we look ahead 5 to 10 years down the line, what innovations do you believe will have the greatest impact when it comes to urban flood resilience in India, within the Indian perspective? Over to you, sir.
For this question, I think over the next decade, urban flood resilience in India will be shaped not by a single technology, but by the convergence of AI, digital infrastructure, climate science, nature-based solution, and smart governance. So any city which successfully integrate these innovations will be better equipped to predict, withstand, and recover from floods. Now, you also find that we'll have we have to have the three most impactful design innovation for India would be, if I had to identify innovation likely to have greatest impact next 5 years, they would be AI-driven flood forecasting and decision support, digital twins for urban planning and operations, nature-based response city solutions, and I have probably vision for 2035. Imagine an Indian city in 2035. AI predicts floods 6 hours in advance. Thousands of IoT sensors continuously monitor rainfall and drainage conditions. A digital twin simulates flood impacts in real time. Restored tanks, wetlands, and green controls absorb excess runoff. Smart drainage systems automatically regulate water flow. Emergency services are employed proactively rather than reactively. So such a city would not merely survive floods, it would be adaptive, resilient, and future ready. The future of urban flood resilience lies in combining advanced technology with ecological wisdom, creating cities that are not just only safer, but also sustainable and livable. That's what I have in my mind.
Thank you, sir. So I think we are right on time. I would very cordially invite Madhuri ma'am to summarize the webinar and end the webinar. Over to you, ma'am. You can please continue.
Thank you, Amrita, and I would like to thank each and everyone, especially the speakers, the panelists, whom I have worked with from last 10 years, and I feel really privileged and honored to invite them in the webinar and then being accepting my invitation. So thank you, each one of you. And firstly, I would like to talk about this topic because I have actually worked on my PhD on urban flood management, where I have been associated with 𝗂𝗏 sir and Shubha ma'am and various other, and in fact Sandeep sir also, they've done at all point of time. And I have seen that it's not just one approach which will give us a holistic solution, or it's like technological solution which integrates IoT, sensors, artificial intelligence, ML. In fact, the satellites, high resolution satellite imagery, as sir was telling, and in fact down the lane, if we want to understand based on how sir was telling, like, it depends on the type of case study, it depends on the different terrains and the land use, land cover changes, as well as we have the climate change which we need to put into our studies, which will give us an idea of the different representative concentration pathways, where which tells about the different return periods and years, how the climate change is going to be. Based on that, the flood predictions has to be done. And also to be added with the speakers, and they were telling that, flood is not a disaster. It definitely can be a kind of a resource where, we can change it by making it kinds of a sponge city, where I have also worked on the BMPs, which says that the water can be used as a resource if we use it very judiciously. In fact, it will be able to cater the need of the people of that place. So in fact, I'm so thankful that every aspect of the urban flood has been covered here. Thank you, each and every one of you, for giving your precious time, and thank you so much. Thank you, Amrita.
Thank you everyone for
Thank you.
joining. Thank you everyone for your time. Thank you. So we end the webinar here. Thank you all the attendees for joining as well. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.